Todd, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, before we get into your work, I want to know this. 6 years ago, I always begin with this question. The pandemic was raging, so many things changed about our lives. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
So 6 years ago, I was working for a startup in connected car technology in San Francisco. And we had a really cool little, hip startup office on Market Street in San Fran. And our CEO came in and said, "Hey, there's this thing going around, so we're shutting down the office. Go home, and we'll see you guys all next week." I never went back to that office. They eventually closed the office, and I have been completely virtual since then. I've
Wow.
worked for a couple of different startups and had a lot of fun, but I've never had an office again. I've been completely virtual ever since then. And WoodChuck, my current company, is totally virtual. We've got employees in Michigan and Arizona and California and Pakistan, but we have no office anywhere. So it's definitely changed the way we work. Um, but I think it opens a lot of doors. It allows you to hire people anywhere. You find the best talent no matter where they are. They don't need to be in the city where your headquarters is. Um, and I also think there's a lot of efficiency in digital communication, just like this. You're in Kansas City, I'm in Scottsdale, but we can have a great meeting and see each other and converse. And so I think it's driven a lot of efficiencies.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think even in telehealth, it's been really good to be able to be in that world because there was always that getting ready and driving and all of those things that go into it, but it just makes more sense, I think, to do it virtually. So before we get into your book, before we get into your company, I want to know this. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12 and 13-year-old kids. It's career day, and they would just want to know what you do for a living. How do you synthesize everything that you do to make it make sense to them?
So I'm the trash man. We take all of the trash from a construction site, but instead of just taking it and throwing it into landfill, we separate all of that trash into valuable materials. So if you have a big metal dumpster and you throw wood and cardboard and plastic and metal and you throw everything in there together, that's trash and it goes to the landfill. If instead you separate the wood and you separate the metal and you separate the plastic, all of those individual things become materials that now can be used for something new, something different. It can be recycled, it can be turned into energy. So I'm the trash man that takes nothing to the landfill. That's what I do.
Wow. So, what did you want to be when you were a kid? What was your dream, like career aspiration?
Well, I wanted to run the Olympic marathon and be a professional basketball player.
I love it. So, talk to me a little bit about your childhood. Where were you born and raised?
I grew up in a suburb outside of Denver, Colorado, and we had a family farm, and we had animals and grew crops, which I think is a great experience because you learn the cycle of life and where food comes from, and you learn that things generally aren't broken; they just might need a little love and care. So yeah, I think that was a great experience.
So, how did these ideas of being an entrepreneur, of coming up with cutting edge ideas, startups, how did all of this become your focal point, your business?
Well, I think that started really, really early. So my dad was actually an attorney, so he practiced law, but we also owned a farm, and so that my brother and sister and I did most of the farm work. But the deal was, when it was hay season, if we cut the hay and baled the hay, if we sold the hay, we got to keep the money. At the end of the summer, we would collect bushels and bushels of corn. Same thing. We sold that corn, we could keep the money. So there was kind of that entrepreneurial spirit from day one. Um, and then honestly, one of my first, I guess, true experiences off the farm, there was a golf course near us, and my brother and I used to like to sneak into the golf course because there was a swamp out in the middle around the lake. So we would go out there to sneak in just to explore, but we found a bunch of golf balls. So we started filling our pockets with golf balls. And on the way out, we stopped at a tee box and tried to sell the golf balls to a golfer that was there. So, we're pulling these grimy swamp golf balls out of our pockets, but he was still interested and he needed balls. So we sold him a couple balls. Then we realized, if we take these balls home and clean them and get them really nice, we could probably get more money for them. And then we started to learn all sorts of different business strategies and business ideas. We figured out that the guy that came by at 10 o'clock in the red shirt loved Titleists. So when we saw him coming, we'd hide all the Titleists except maybe three. And that way we could get top dollar for him.
Yeah.
So we learned all these little strategies and marketing and merchandising and scarcity. And anyways, it's just grown from there.
Yeah. So, on the entrepreneurial landscape, who has been an inspiration for you? Who have you looked up to as somebody that's done it the right way? Whether it's being eco-friendly, treating the employees right, hooking customers in for life. Have there been examples of that that you've emulated in your life?
Well, there's so many great examples of someone that's come out with a new technology and really changed the landscape. And that's kind of across all sorts of different verticals. And what I always love the story of someone that comes in and finds a new technology or a new efficiency, a new way of doing it, and really disrupts, legacy industries. And kind of a side part of that is it's really fun when you see companies that had the chance to do that, but because they were so ingrained in the way they do business, they didn't. Like, everybody likes the Blockbuster example, right? Blockbuster rented videos. They had the ability to stream videos, but they didn't want to disrupt their regular business. So somebody else did it for them, right? And they went out of business. And you see those stories all the time. Kodak developed digital film. But again, they thought, oh, our clients are true photographers and they're never going to go away from traditional film. Well, Kodak is now a small player in that world. They're more of a chemicals company now.
Yeah.
So, when you see these new technologies, emerging technologies that can drive real efficiencies, that's exciting, and it can open so many doors. And that's really what WoodChuck does. So WoodChuck, yes, we are a waste diversion company, but specifically, we use AI image recognition to help us identify and segregate all of these materials. And again, like I mentioned a minute ago for 12 and 13-year-olds, when you separate all those materials, it's no longer trash. Now it's material that can be commoditized and monetized. So it can really flip the script and drive efficiencies. And material handling and waste hauling is one of those industries that's been doing it the same way for decades, and it's ripe for disruption. So WoodChuck comes in, we utilize AI image recognition, we separate all these materials and monetize it and drive real value for our end clients. And there's a real environmental impact as well.
So that would be a perfect segue to talk about your book, Hyperscale, which is a part of AI and that entire behemoth. Talk to me a little bit about this book.
So we're seeing a real massive growth right now in energy demand and energy capacity, and it's been driving largely by AI and the demand for AI. I mean, AI is part of our lives now. It's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. Even if you don't think you're using it, you're interacting with AI multiple times every day. It's part of the way the world works. That's driving massive need for AI data centers. AI data centers consume a massive amount of energy. And if you look across the United States or even globally, um, global energy grids don't have a lot of excess capacity. Local grids are built to support the communities where they exist, the homes and businesses where they exist. So if you want to build a new data center, a data center requires a massive amount of energy. There aren't really locations available where there's just a massive amount of excess energy. So what we're now seeing is data centers are starting to build their own energy capacity. And we're seeing that with traditional energy sources, renewable energy sources, nuclear. We're really seeing a broad use of different energies. And it's driving a massive growth in energy capacity. So I kind of refer to it as the next industrial revolution, right? When the industrial revolution came on, we saw a massive increase in energy and a massive increase in productivity. And now we're seeing the same thing. AI is driving massive increases in productivity. It's also driving massive increases in global energy capacity. So we're living in an exciting time.
Yeah, for sure. So when did you discover AI for the first time as something that you were going to harness and make really a part of what you're doing?
Honestly, I took my first AI class when I was in college decades ago. And this is back when, we used things like Fortran and Pascal and stuff people, the kids today probably never even heard of. But I had an AI class, and this was at Claremont McKenna College. Took my first AI class, but it was a theory class. And the idea was if we could develop enough compute power, was artificial intelligence possible?
Wow.
And Here we are 30 years later, and it's not just possible, it's part of our everyday lives, and it's driving massive changes in the way workforces are deployed and productivity of workforces.
You know, you can't escape that idea of Arthur C. Clarke about AI going sideways. And I know it's a big catchphrase, and I ask about it all the time, but I tend to be a believer that AI is an aggregate of what humans use it for. And for the most part, it's good. I think there's always going to be nefarious things that are going to happen. But in your summation of where we're going with this technology that has obliterated Moore's law, that duplicates it's the level of speed that this is developing at is unreal. Where's your do you have a concern? Where do you lean on that pie chart of being optimistic and concerned?
So AI is the newest emerging technology, right? There's always a new technology coming along, and they always have various impacts. And you're right, you can use them for good or you can use them for evil. AI really takes that up to another level because, like you said, it is growing so fast, and the power of it is growing so fast, and it's more than just another IT technology. It's more than just another tool. It's um, it's really an engaging, proactive partner. You can interact with your AI. You can ask it questions. So it really is a different tool that literally changes the way we work. And because it is so powerful, it has the capacity to have really positive impacts on productivity and output and the quality of what we're doing. But you're right, there also is the risk that it's used for really terrible things. And we see that all the time, right? All of the video manipulation and audio manipulation, and some of that can be really funny and create great memes, but a lot of it can be really damaging and destructive and misinforming, and there's a real danger there. So I think we definitely need to build some guardrails, but I also think it creates a real opportunity for um, really to use AI to identify AI. I think it would be great for social media and other platforms to simply have an AI monitor on every video. So any video that you see, it's got an indicator in the corner of, is this real video or is this AI manipulated?
Yeah.
And I think if you had that, say, on Facebook, I think you would find that probably, 95% of the videos you see on there have been manipulated with AI to some extent.
My son this morning actually was asking me about a basketball player. I think it was I can't remember who it was. It was for the Celtics, and he ripped his ACL. And he was like, "Can you see when he's going to come back and play?" And I said, "I just did it the other day, and they don't know when he's going to come back." And the point of this is that he said, and I said, "Why are you asking me?" And he was like, "Someone on TikTok said that it was happening." And I said, "I've listened to you on TikTok, and there's these uh, press conferences with Steph Curry, and it's not him. There's these press conferences with LeBron." And my point is that with these young minds that don't know any different, we can deduce a little bit more because we've been around. I've been in technology my whole life. I can sniff that out really quick. But like you said, when do you think we're going to get to this point of having something on there that's going to tell you green or red what it is? It's either AI or it's real.
I think we need it right now,
Yeah.
and the technology exists. Um, I would really like to, and I think that creates an opportunity, another entrepreneurial opportunity. If you are the company that develops that indicator or that certificate, and you become the gold standard, and every social platform uses you to identify AI versus true video, I think that could be a huge opportunity.
Yeah. So who's been your hero? Who's been your inspirational force in your life, in your career to evolve to where you're at today?
I've been fortunate to work with lots of great partners and great mentors, going all the way back to again, Claremont McKenna is where I went to undergrad, and I still have a really great relationship with the school, and I interact with the professors quite a bit, and now I get to return a little bit to some of the students there. But academics, and then I've been at some great companies with some great visionary CEOs where I could learn their techniques and see how they lead and see how they build consensus within their organizations. And so, yeah, I've been really fortunate to work with a ton of great leaders.
So, who would be a visionary right now, an entrepreneur, a mind that's doing wonderful things that you would love to have a lunch with, talk to, that might help you on your journey?
Honestly, this will be controversial, but Elon Musk is amazing. I mean, I know that there's a lot of stuff he does that a lot of people hate. There's a lot of stuff he does that I hate. But the things that he is developing, the things that his companies are developing, and the boundaries that they are pushing, um, computer brain implants, building data centers in space, he's really driving some amazing innovations. And I mean, I think he's kind of one of those, I think, generational minds that the impact that he's having on different technology fronts is really accelerating the pace. So love him or hate him, but what he's doing on technology fronts is kind of undeniable. Um,
Yeah, no, I agree, and I've seen him on Rogan, and I've heard him talk about things, and it's mind bending. I mean, where he's at, the level of pure work and leaving noise out is very stellar with him. He just has this vision. But he is one of the very few central figures that I've heard talk about AI that's frightened me. Like when Rogan's talked to him about it, he kind of always takes a pause. And there's a level of him that goes to that place that says, if human beings get out of hand with this, I saw the fear in his eyes. That's the only reason why I think I probe and ask, because I generally think that most people use these AI technologies for good. And it's an aggregate of human behavior. I believe that. But I think there's a part of him that is seen behind the curtain and he knows where things can go before we ever will.
well, AI is really good at removing or replacing repetitive tasks. It's really good at monitoring for errors, monitoring for defaults, monitoring for anomalies. And so it's really easy to turn over lots of management tasks to the AI to simply run systems for you. But the risk is, depending on what system you're allowing AI to run and how much oversight you have over that, it can be really risky. If you put AI unmonitored to run a system that has potential negative impacts, right? The risks are huge. So I think the more risky the system you are using AI to control or to manage, I think the more human insight or oversight that you need. So maybe you use the AI to identify anomalies or identify issues, but don't enable the AI to simply make decisions without some level of human input.
Yeah.
But of course, some people won't do that. If you have nefarious characters that are just unleashing AI with no monitoring, yeah, we could have some really bad results. I mean, imagine if a country put AI in charge of their missile defense system with no human oversight, and the AI got fooled or tricked by somebody else's AI. Um, there could be catastrophic results. So, yes, those things are absolutely possible. Um, and the bigger risk the system, the more we need to be paying, the closer attention we need to be paying to it as humans.
I think about the Bay of Pigs when I saw that documentary of the telegrams going back and forth between Kennedy and Khrushchev. There was literally time of waiting, and missiles could have been launched. That's a perfect case scenario. If
Yeah.
there would have been something rash would have happened, it would have been that was endgame right there. Because it would have been both countries going after it. Um, so I'm curious with woodchuck. I'm a visual artist, and I always love getting recycled things. I love seeing like dumpsters with wood, big pieces of wood, and it's a carnival to me. I just grab it. I go. I love it. But I'm wondering how you came up with this idea because I think about that periodically. There's nails, there's all of these things that especially on construction sites that are totally usable, and that can be recycled. What was the epiphany that made you have this idea?
Well, the big shift, what we are doing that's different than previous companies is we are pre-sorting materials. So in the past, there have been lots of companies that have collected all of this waste and then tried to sort it all out after the fact. So they're putting dumpsters on a construction site or a manufacturing site, wherever it is. They collect all of that garbage. They bring it to a MRF or some other type of sorting facility, and they try to separate all the material. And people have done it with just low cost labor where they're hand picking all this stuff. Companies have tried to use robotics and image recognition and all these different things, but separating all that material afterwards, no one's found a cost effective way of doing that.
Yeah.
So what we do is we actually deploy multiple collection bins. So we'll have a bin for wood and one for cardboard and one for plastic and one for metal. And then we use the AI to monitor those and make sure we only get the correct material in each one of those bins. So then at the end of the day or the end of the week, when we pull that dumpster of wood, it's all wood.
Yeah.
Now we can process that and run it over magnets to pull out the nails, and we can run it through sieves to get rid of any dirt or cement or fines. So we can end up with a really clean wood chip. But that's cost effective, and we can do that because we're pre-sorting, and AI really helps us to do that pre-sorting. So
Yeah.
it kind of utilizing image recognition to pre-sort these materials kind of flips the script and drives a level of efficiency so that we are able to do the environmentally friendly thing, but it's also the financially smart thing
Yeah.
because by separating these materials and turning them into commodities, we can now sell them, right? All those things combined together is trash, and you pay somebody else to put it in the landfill for you. If you separate the wood, you separate the cardboard and you bale it, and you separate the plastic and you bale it, and you take the metal and you separate the different types of metal, all those things then become commodities that you can sell. You can monetize those. So now all of that they used to pay someone else to haul away, you're now generating inventory.
Yeah.
So it really flips the script financially. I'm a big believer that in order for something to be sustainable, it needs to be financially sustainable.
Yeah.
If it's only environmentally friendly, but it costs you more money, if it's not financially sustainable, it's not sustainable. It has to be both.
So, what do you look forward to every day when you wake up and do this work? What is it that you look forward to the most?
Well, I think I always love looking for the next opportunity and the next project. And I actually love being out on the job site and watching the big machinery process this stuff and ship off semi loads of clean wood that we're going to turn into energy. I love the noise and the excitement and where you can get out there and actually see real physical results as a result of your work. That's exciting. I really enjoy that.
So, let's say you had a dream tonight. You ran into the 18-year-old version of you ready to go out into the world, and you had a film projector next to that young version of you, and you click play, and it was a 60-second highlight reel of your life. Would that young version of you believe that your life turned out this way?
Uh, that's a great question. I mean, when I was 18, I was like every other 18, right? I cared about sports and I was easily distracted by pretty girls. And I don't think I had like a long-term vision of where I wanted to be. But I guess what I would want to say to him, that, young me or any young person is, you want to make choices as an 18, 19, 20-year-old that give you lots of options because you don't know which direction your life is going to go. And you're going to have chances to pivot multiple times in your life. I've had lots of different careers in lots of different verticals. And every time you get to make one of those pivots, it can be scary, but it also can be really fun. And you learn brand new things and you see new opportunities. So I guess I would say be open to lots of different paths. So as you're deciding on which job to take or which academic program to pursue, I would say choose things that give you lots of options, so you can keep your options open and see where life takes you.
So, the one thing that can change the trajectory of our lives are those random small moments of kindness that people bestow on us. What's one of the nicest things somebody's ever done for you?
Honestly, again, so lucky and so blessed in many, many ways. My brother and I had just launched a new company. It was called Home Next, and we imported electronics from Asia, and we sold them on Amazon and eBay. We sold a lot of plasma TVs. So we had just launched this new company, and my wife got pregnant with triplets. So we all of a sudden had this crazy life. Taking care of triplet newborns is a 24/7 operation. Launching a startup is a 24/7 operation. And so a lot of times you'd feed babies and change babies all day long, and I would be doing emails and customer service from 10 at night to 4 in the morning, or just all sorts of crazy schedules. And during that time period, our family and our friends stepped up so huge for us. We would have my mom or my wife's dad or friends that would come and spend the night at our house and help take care of the babies so we could get some sleep or so I could get some work done. Um, Tons of meals, right? You'd be in for a couple hours taking care of babies and you'd come out and someone would have brought you lunch or brought you dinner. But our friends and family really stepped up and just provided so much help during that totally crazy time period. I mean, honestly, looking back on it, the whole thing is a blur.
Yeah.
There were a couple of years there where it was just insane.
Yeah, I could only imagine. So let's say um you walked into a room of everybody that's known you as the businessman throughout your life. All the startups, all the employees, all the colleagues, everyone that you've worked with, and you could walk up to a podium and tell them a fun story about your life. The one an amazing sports experience you had, whether it was playing or live, the first concert you went to, an amazing place you traveled to, jumping out of an airplane, outrunning a bear. What would be a fun story that you would tell that room?
Um, yeah, that's so I was a skydiver actually.
Okay.
So you mentioned skydiving,
Yeah.
and I used to skydive a lot with a buddy. And then when my wife and I were dating, I convinced her to go skydiving with us. And so we went up and we jumped out of the plane and we got the filming. So we had a guy that fell with her and filmed her whole jump. And then we landed on the ground. I immediately asked her, "Would you do it again?" And she said, "In a heartbeat." Well, she never did it again. And but now, years later, as our kids turned 18, each time one of our kids turned 18, I'd offer to take them skydiving,
Yeah.
and three of the five have taken me up on it. So
Yeah.
I've made more jumps as years later, taking the kids skydiving. It's always an insane experience.
Yeah.
There's nothing as exhilarating. It's just total sensory overload when you jump out of that plane. But the one thing that people always think it's gonna be like driving a car over a hill or taking off in an airplane. It's really not like that. As soon as you hit the air, as soon as you jump out that door and you're in the air, you feel like you're soaring.
Yeah.
It's just such a phenomenal feeling. I would suggest everybody in the world try it at least one time. It's
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal.
I need to for sure. So, of everything that's happened in your life, everything that you've accomplished, overcome, and evolved to, what are you the proudest of? What are you the happiest about?
My wife and I have been married for 31 years. We've got five kids that are healthy, happy, successful, and out building their own lives. And so I guess, yeah, I hope that people would think of me first as as a good husband and a good father.
So, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you: family, friends, clients, colleagues, employees, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm definitely an optimist. I'm definitely a glass half full kind of guy. And I like to view challenges as opportunities. I like to think of myself as a problem solver. So when there is a new challenge, or whatever that challenge is, how can we flip that around? How can we turn that into an opportunity and make it a win-win? So that's really what I like to focus on, and yeah, I hope that people see that.
So, as a sports fan, if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one game, where are you going?
So I grew up in Denver, so I was
Okay.
a Bronco fan,
Yeah.
and the Broncos played Green Bay in the Super Bowl in San Diego. And actually, my brother and I got to go to that game, and we had seats on about the 30-yard line. And late in that game, there's a play where the Broncos have to have a first down.
Yeah.
They just have to have it. They're driving on Green Bay. And I don't know if you were ever a Bronco fan or a John Elway fan, but John Elway had this one play that he often ran. It was the naked bootleg, where the
Uh-huh.
whole offense went one direction and he would sweep out wide the other way and
Yep.
come around and it was naked because he had no blockers. It was
Yep.
just him, right? So they pull the naked bootleg, and there's Elway running around the side, and this is right in front of us, right on the 30-yard line, right in front of my brother and I. And he comes around. Well, Green Bay was ready for it, and they had two linebackers tracking on John Elway. And Elway just put his head down and ran straight into those guys, and pow! Huge connection. Elway flies up in the air and spins a 360
Uh-huh.
and lands for a first down.
Yeah.
And I turned to my brother and said, "We are going to win the Super Bowl. Elway will not be denied."
Right.
So if I could do it again, I would go back and relive that moment. That was my favorite sports
That's
play of all
cool.
time.
There was a documentary on him on Netflix that was fascinating. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that yet. I really need to.
You got to. It's like I had no idea the grit and what he was up against, and it's just like he's just one of those stories where you just think John Elway fell out of a golden cannon and he was just destined, but he had to work so hard against so many odds, and there was always that onus of not having the Super Bowl ring and that whole thing. So I got to tell you though, coming from Kansas City and this whole dynasty here, I was really happy to get away from the noise, not feel the playoff stress this year, and to see Denver get there because I love Colorado. I love Denver. So I was like, I was just so happy that it happened. But I can't believe that is it Bo? Is it Bo Nix?
Yeah, Bo Nix. Yeah.
Man. And it was like the second to last play of that game, right? That
Yeah, yeah. So we won the game and ended our season all at the same time. That
my
was
God,
crazy.
I was
Yeah.
just because after that happened, I didn't see that headline, and I was like, all right, let's get Denver back in because since the whole Manning thing, there's just been this thirst, but I had
Well,
no
and I
idea.
didn't believe it. I thought it was an AI fake.
Yeah,
When I saw that, I'm like, yeah, no way. He finished the game. There's no
yeah,
way he broke his ankle, right?
exactly.
Well, it was real. So
Yeah,
yeah, that was one of the things where I was 100% sure that was an AI fake, but it
man.
wasn't,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I remember the year, it was 2019. Mahomes had a kneecap displaced, and it was in Denver, and he was laying on the ground. And that trainer that came out and popped it back in, he should have been the one that held that Super Bowl trophy in the air, the first one that year, because that was a miracle. I remember when that happened. But so, if anybody wants to get the book, if anybody wants to dig into your company, any of the good work you're doing, where's the best place they can go?
So WoodChuck, you can find us online. We are woodchuck.ai, so pretty easy to find us. If you are interested in Hyperscale, it's at Amazon. So just go to Amazon and look up Hyperscale or look up Todd Thomas, and you should find it pretty easily. And yeah, read it. It's got a lot of great technology in it, some great examples. It kind of concludes talking about actually Musk's idea of data centers in space, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, give it a try. I think you'll enjoy it.
Absolutely. Todd, this has been wonderful. I'll put all these links in the show notes. So good to meet you, man. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. That was a really fun conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.